Jehovah's plagues on Christendom. The four winds have been held back until the 144,000 of spiritual Israel are sealed and the great crowd is approved for survival. Revelation 7 1 through 4 and 9. However, before that tempestuous storm breaks over the earth, Jehovah's adverse judgments against Satan's world must also be made known. As the Lamb proceeds to open the seventh seal, the seventh and final seal, John must be watching keenly to see what will unfold. Now he shares his experience with us. And when he, the Lamb, opened the seventh seal, a silence occurred in heaven for about a half hour. And I saw the seven angels that stand before God, and seven trumpets were given them. Revelation 8 1 and 2. A time for fervent prayer. A significant silence, this. Half an hour can seem a long time when you are waiting for something to happen. Now even the constant heavenly chorus of praise is no longer heard. Revelation 4:8. Why? John sees the reason in vision. And another angel arrived and stood at the altar, having a golden incense vessel, and a large quantity of incense was given him to offer it with the prayers of all the holy ones upon the golden altar that was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense ascended from the hand of the angel with the prayers of the holy ones before God. Revelation 8 3 and 4. This reminds us that under the Jewish system of things, incense was burned daily at the tabernacle, and in later years at the temple in Jerusalem. Exodus 31 through 8. During such incense burning, the non priestly Israelites waited outside the sacred area, praying, no doubt, silently in their hearts to the one to whom the incense smoke was ascending. Luke 1:10. John now sees something similar happening in heaven. The incense offered by the angel is associated with the prayers of the holy ones. In fact, in an earlier vision, incense is said to represent such prayers. Revelation 5:8, Psalm 141 1 and 2. Evidently, then, the symbolic silence in heaven is to allow the prayers of the holy ones on earth to be heard. Can we determine when this happened? Yes, we can, by examining the context together with historical developments early in the Lord's day. Revelation 1:10. During 1918 and 1919, events on earth harmonized remarkably with the scenario described at Revelation 8 1 through 4. For 40 years before 1914, the Bible students, as Jehovah's Witnesses were then called, had been announcing boldly that the times of the Gentiles would end in that year. The distressful events of 1914 proved them correct. Luke 21:24, King James Version, Matthew 24:3, 7, and 8. But many of them also believed that in 1914 they would be taken from this earth to their heavenly inheritance. That did not happen. Instead, during the First World War, they endured a time of severe persecution. On October 31st, 1916, the first president of the Watchtower Society, Charles T. Russell, died. Then on July 4th, 1918, the new president, Joseph F. Rutherford, and seven other representatives of the society were transported to the Atlanta, Georgia penitentiary, wrongly sentenced to long years in prison. The sincere Christians of the John class were perplexed. What did God want them to do next? When would they be taken up to heaven? An article entitled "The Harvest Ended, What Shall Follow" appeared in the May 1st, 1919 issue of the Watchtower. It reflected this state of uncertainty and encouraged the faithful to continue endurance, adding, "We believe it is now a true saying that the harvest of the kingdom class is an accomplished fact, that all such are duly sealed, and that the door is closed. During this difficult period, the fervent prayers of the John class were ascending, as though in the smoke of a large quantity of incense, and their prayers were being heard, hurling fire to the earth." John tells us, "But right away the angel took the incense vessel, and he filled it with some of the fire of the altar, and hurled it to the earth. And thunders occurred, and voices, and lightnings, and an earthquake." Revelation 8:5. After the silence, there is sudden dramatic activity. This is evidently in response to the prayers of the holy ones, since it is triggered by fire from the incense altar. Back in 1513 BCE at Mount Sinai, thunders and lightnings, a loud noise, fire and quaking of the mountains signaled Jehovah's turning his attention to his people. Exodus 19:16 through 20. The similar manifestations reported by John likewise indicate Jehovah's giving attention to his servants on earth. But what John observes is presented in signs. Revelation 1:1. So how are the symbolic fire, thunders, voices, lightnings, and earthquake to be interpreted today? On one occasion, Jesus told his disciples, I came to start a fire on the earth. Luke 12:49. Truly, he did ignite a fire by his zealous preaching. Jesus made God's kingdom the paramount issue before the Jewish people, and this sparked heated controversy throughout the nation. Matthew 4:17 and 25, chapters 10, 5 through 7, 17 and 18. In 1919, Jesus' spiritual brothers on earth, the small band of anointed Christians who had survived the troublesome days of World War I, set light to a similar fire in Christendom. In September of that year, Jehovah's Spirit was remarkably in evidence as his loyal witnesses assembled from near and far at Cedar Point, Ohio, USA. Joseph R. Rutherford, recently released from prison and soon to see all charges against him dropped, boldly addressed at the convention, saying, obedient to the command of our Master and recognizing our privilege and duty to make war against the strongholds of error which have so long held the people in bondage. Our vocation was and is to announce the incoming glorious kingdom of the Messiah. That is the primary issue, God's kingdom. Referring to the recent hard experiences of God's people, the speaker said, so pitiless was the onslaught of the enemy that many of the Lord's dear flock were stunned and stood still in amazement, praying and waiting for the Lord to indicate his will. But notwithstanding the momentary discouragement, there was a burning desire to proclaim the message of the kingdom. In 1919, that desire was satisfied. This small but active group of Christians was set on fire, spiritually speaking, to begin a worldwide preaching campaign. 1 Thessalonians 5:19. Fire was hurled to the earth in that God's kingdom was made the burning issue, and so it continues to be. Strong voices replace silence, sounding out the kingdom message with clarity. Thunderous storm warnings from the Bible pealed forth like flashes of lightning. Brilliant beams of truth shone from Jehovah's prophetic word, and as if by a mighty earthquake, the religious realm was shaken to its foundations. The John class saw that there was work to be done, and to this day, that work continues to expand gloriously throughout the entire inhabited earth. Romans 10:18. Preparing for the blast of the trumpets. John goes on to say, and the seven angels with the seven trumpets prepared to blow them. Revelation 8:6. What does the blowing of the trumpets mean? In the days of Israel, trumpet blasts were used to signal important days or noteworthy events. Leviticus 23:24, 2 Kings 11:14. Similarly, the blast of the trumpets that John is to hear will call attention to matters of life and death importance. As the angels got ready to blow those trumpets, no doubt they were also giving direction to a preparatory work on earth. From 1919 to 1922, the revitalized John class was busy in reorganizing the public ministry and building up publishing facilities. In 1919, the magazine The Golden Age, known today as Awake, had been brought forth as a journal of fact, hope, and conviction, a trumpet-like instrument that would play a key role in exposing false religion's political involvements. As we shall now see, each of the trumpet blasts heralds a dramatic scene in which terrible plagues affect portions of the earth. Some of these remind us of the plagues that Jehovah sent to punish the Egyptians in Moses' day. These were expressions of Jehovah's judgments on that nation, and they opened the way for God's people to escape from slavery. The plagues seen by John accomplish something similar. However, they are not literal plagues, they are signs that symbolize Jehovah's righteous judgment. Revelation 1 1. Identifying the third. As we shall see, when the four trumpets are blown, plagues are inflicted on a third of the earth, of the sea, of the rivers and fountains of waters, and of the earth's sources of light. Revelation 8 7 through 12. A third is a considerable part of something, but not the whole. Compare Isaiah 19:24, Ezekiel 5:2, Zechariah 13:8 and 9. So which third would be most deserving of these plagues? The vast majority of mankind has been blinded and corrupted by Satan and his seed. Genesis 3:15, 2 Corinthians 4:4. The situation is as described by David. They have all turned aside. They are all alike corrupt. There is no one doing good, not even one. Psalm 14:3. Yes, the whole of mankind is in danger of receiving an adverse judgment, but one section thereof is particularly guilty. One part, a third, should have known better. What is the third? It is Christendom. In the 1920s, her realm embraced about one third of mankind. Her religion is the fruit of the great apostasy, and from true Christianity. The apostasy that Jesus and his disciples foretold. Matthew 13:24, 13:24 to 30, Acts 20:29, chapters 30 and verse or Acts 20:29 and 30, 2 Thessalonians 2:3, 2 Peter 2:1 through 3. The clergy of Christendom claim to be in God's temple and have represented themselves as teachers of Christianity, but their doctrines are far removed from the Bible truth, and they continually bring God's name into disrepute. Aptly represented by the symbolic third, Christendom receives potent, plaguing messages from Jehovah. That third of mankind merits no divine favor whatsoever. In line with there being a sequence of trumpet blasts, special resolutions were featured at 7 conventions from 1922 to 1928. But the trumpeting has not been confined to those years. The powerful exposing of Christendom's wicked ways has been continuous, ongoing as the Lord's day progresses. Jehovah's judgment must be proclaimed universally to all nations, despite international hatred and persecutions. Only then does the end of Satan's system come. Mark 13:10 and 13. Happily, the great crowd has now added its voice to that of the John class in making those thunderous pronouncements of worldwide importance.